The 2019 Google Pixel 4 can be had nowadays for less than $150 USD on the used market, while still boasting some pretty capable specs, even by the standards of 2023. And so, is this a darn solid bargain, or is your hard-earned cash better spent elsewhere? Let's find out, starting with the design. And by the way, timestamps are in the description if you'd like to see something specific. So first up, the design. Google's Pixel phones have at times stirred up quite the controversy regarding their designs, and the 4 is no exception. We get this iPhone-style square camera bump on the back, and a display with a forehead somehow even bigger than mine. So not really a run-of-the-mill design, but from a distance it's also nothing too quirky. The feel in the hand of this phone is something different though. It feels a tad too tall, kind of like a much more mild version of the infamously high Samsung Galaxy Fold outer screen, so typing with both hands on the keyboard can feel a little cramped, and you have to make a bit of an extra effort to reach the bottom sometimes, but if you have small hands, this shouldn't really be an issue. Plus, it's only 8.2mm thick and weighs 162 grams, so portability is definitely not a problem here. Super light and super portable phone, and even though the screen's tallness can be awkward at times, your hand will never get actually tired from holding the phone. As we're carrying around literal bricks these days, this pleasantly portable form factor is definitely a breath of fresh air. Now, the back of the Pixel 4 is made of glass, which allows for wireless charging, plus you can also put it on the Pixel Stand wireless charger, pretty useful. But if you go for the super shiny, super glossy black finish like me, fingerprints and micro scratches will collect left and right. But if you opt for the white or orange, they come with a matte finish, which is much better for repelling those minor inconveniences. Now, the sides on the Pixel 4 are made from aluminium and has the volume and power buttons, both of which you do have to press a bit harder than normal, which is kind of annoying, but we do get a colored power button, although I don't really know how I feel about it. In a way it works, but in another way it's sort of a bit tacky. In my opinion at least. Although, if you squeeze the sides, you can pull up your Google Assistant, something the Pixel 3 introduced the year before, and quite a useful little knickknack if I do say so. Satisfying to activate, and super convenient. On the bottom we get our USB-C port, something the iPhone wouldn't adopt until 4 years later, with the iPhone 15 series that came out this September, although on the Pixel 4 we only get USB 2.1 data transfer speeds, as opposed to the most recent Pixel 8 for example, which has USB 3.1. So we've had quite a big leap in data transfer speeds, if you're into that. Now, the speakers beside the port are actually pretty solid. They sound quite full and bassy, and it's a dual speaker setup, which makes videos in landscape on here just that much more immersive and four-dimensional. Now, at the front of the Pixel 4 can easily be flamed for its rather questionable forehead here. Maybe this sort of adds to the illusion that the phone feels strangely tall, since the screen is sitting much lower and off-center. It definitely doesn't look the cleanest or most proportionate, and it makes the bottom half of the screen awkward to navigate if you're using two hands, corners that slick down into the sides. And I mean, the forehead is not without good reason. It houses a bunch of sensors, one of them being the incredibly speedy Face Unlock sensor. This is remarkably faster than Face ID on the iPhone, and unlike on iPhones, you don't have to swipe up after it recognizes you. It'll automatically take you into the home screen, which is just infinitely easier. Probably a bit less secure, but on the other hand, with its raise to wake function, that means you can literally just pick up the phone, and as you naturally bring it up to your face, you're in. Which seems subtle, but it's leaps and bounds better than on the iPhone, where you still have to swipe up even after you've been recognized. Now, at the top of this phone also houses the sensors for something the Pixel 4 introduced called Motion Sense. Basically, it allows you to control your phone by moving your hand just above it. For example, if you want to skip a song, just swipe your hand to the side. If you want to stop a timer or alarm, just dip your hand and the phone will carry out that action. It's definitely more on the gimmicky side than being practical. While I was using this phone, I never really went out of my way to use it, just because it can take a few times to work, but it's still kind of cool. I like it. Now, in terms of the display just below the forehead, this is definitely a strong point of the Pixel 4. It's a 5.7-inch OLED panel with a resolution of 2280 by 1080 and pixel density of 444 pixels per inch. And while it might not be the largest or most immersive, it's still super high-end in terms of actual quality. Everything is razor sharp, you can't see individual pixels, super vibrant and punchy colors, and with the OLED technology, you're getting those deep true blacks. But probably the best thing about this panel is that it brought a higher refresh rate to the Pixel line for the first time, bumping it up from 60Hz to 90Hz, so every swipe and every scroll is just going to be that much smoother since the frame rate of the screen is now higher. And it genuinely does make a difference. Maybe not so much to the average person with 90Hz, 120Hz is definitely a more prominent difference, but the 90Hz on here is definitely an improvement. Plus, it's an always-on display, so you've constantly got your date, time, battery level, and any notifications at a literal glance. This is something that's quite common nowadays, so it's good to see it on here as well. There's only one real drawback to the display apart apart from its size, and of course if you want a bigger display you should check out the Pixel 4 XL. But the brightness on here is genuinely pretty bad. Only peaks at around a very specific 444 nits, so it really feels quite dim when you're outdoors or in direct sunlight, although indoors it's perfectly fine. So yeah, all in all, still a pretty flagship display in terms of quality. It's just that brightness and forehead that can taint the experience, but you know, for a phone that's under $150 and was top end 4 years ago, it's still pretty darn good, whether you're into tech specs or just want a display that works. Something else that's pretty darn good is getting unlimited high quality 5G data for just $15 a month plus 3 months free when you sign up for today's video partner, Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile offers top end speed, coverage and data for literally as low as $15 a month. And get this, 3 months free if you sign up before January 1st using my link below. And plus, Ryan Reynolds owns the company, something I bet you can't flex about your current mobile plan.
Hey there, it's Ryan Reynolds, owner of Mint Mobile. Enticing, right?
Because Mint doesn't have any retail stores, this cuts out all the costs for salespeople and therefore all of your overpriced mobile bills. With Mint Mobile, you can't notice a single bit of difference compared to mainstream service providers, whether you're playing heavy online games or simply browsing the web or scrolling social media. It's truly high quality service that will carry you through anything and everything. And because Mint supports eSIM, you can make the switch without leaving your bed, all while keeping the same number. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, they'll ship you a physical card for free. And so if that sounds pretty darn good, head to my link in the video description to access this incredible offer. For that, you're getting unlimited high quality 5G data with the US's largest mobile network, and again, 3 whole months free if you sign up using my link below if you sign up before January 1st. You'll save a boatload of cash with no drawbacks, no caveats, and definitely no price hikes. And thank you so much to Mint Mobile for partnering with me for this video. And now let's take a look at the cameras on the Pixel 4. How are they for usability 4 years later? Well, on the rear, there's a 12.2 megapixel main camera, 16 megapixel telephoto lens with 2x zoom, and a 16 megapixel selfie camera. Honestly, I had my doubts, but as I started using this phone, it really proved to go above and beyond what you'd expect for a 4-year-old smartphone camera. Like, these are genuinely good, solid, consistent photos, just the right amount of saturation and dynamic range. These were some seriously impressive photos, probably around what the iPhone 11 of the same year could pull off, except I feel like the colors on the Pixel are slightly more natural and less oversaturated. Also, this phone's portrait mode is super accurate at detecting what's in the background and foreground, unlike many other phones which are a bit indecisive and can blur the edges. Same story with night side, works really well, brightens up dark images without using the flash, and I've noticed that night side on Pixels is much better for bringing out detail in dark situations, and then night mode on the iPhone is better for exposure. But I guess Google had been doing night mode a bit longer than Apple, so not too surprising. Now, the telephoto lens allows you to zoom in 2x without losing quality in your image, and it's still pretty good. Although there is a slight drop in actual quality from the main lens, not a super drastic one, it's still got all the great colors and features as the main lens, but detail can just be a little bit fuzzier. But you know, it's a pretty useful tool to have, and it does the job for what it is. The selfie camera is also terrific at 16 megapixels, so lots of detail, dynamic range is still on point, and colors are still pinpoint accurate. And again, same features as the main lens like portrait mode and night sight. Honestly, this selfie camera probably won't stray too far from a lot of modern flagship selfie cameras. Now, video can be recorded on here in up to 4K at 30 frames per second, and you guessed it, still records legitimately great footage after 4 years. I mean, we've come quite a long way, so it's not going to look as good as a flagship that came out maybe 1 to 2 years ago, but we still get super effective stabilization and top-end colors and detail. Yes, it can struggle in iffy lighting, but not to a callous extent, especially thanks to Google's top-end processing software. So whether you're just capturing memories or want to create a cinematic masterpiece, video holds up really well. Something else that holds up really well is the performance on the Pixel 4, because like the cameras, it really blew me away. On here, we get the Qualcomm Snapdragon 855 chipset and 6GB of RAM. Android flagships that are a few years old nowadays seem to fare really well in terms of still providing a buttery, snappy experience, and that absolutely includes the Pixel 4. You can do pretty much anything on here without any hiccups: web browsing, games, texting, sending emails, the list goes on, and it even fares quite well with heavy games like Pixel Gun 3D. Although beware of your hands melting off as it heats up enough to cause global warming, and that's if the phone even has time to heat up with the excessive battery drain that heavy activities on here can cause. So yeah, while it can run heavy stuff, it does heat up the phone and drain the battery. Not a surprise on a phone that's a few years old, but something to keep in mind if you're looking for a powerhouse on a budget. But overall, for just normal everyday activity, and even most moderately intensive games, performance is holding up really well. Speaking of holding up well though, let's talk about the longevity of the Pixel 4. How long from now will it be usable? Well, for starters, the phone can only run up to Android 13, which came out a year ago. Although, unlike older versions of iOS, the software iPhones use, apps seem to stay compatible with older Android versions a lot longer. And by that, I mean years, so I'd say the Pixel 4 will provide pleasant use for around another 3 to 4 years from now, although during that time the phone won't receive any new features that newer updates might introduce. It is expected though that the Pixel 4 will receive security updates for at least 1 more year, so for the next year you'll have the best security. It won't magically start getting viruses or anything, like you'll still have a darn secure phone, just not as secure as further updates will be. So yeah, if you plan to keep this phone for like 2, 3, even 4 years down the line, you're good. What probably won't be good though is the battery life. In fact, it already is pretty rough nowadays, and even at launch it wasn't up to scratch at 2,800 mAh. I mean, with light use you probably can get through the day, but anything more than that is unfortunately going to be pushing it, which is really a shame because everything else holds up so well, and it's kind of tainted by this poor battery life. I mean, yes, finding a handset with a battery that's in good condition can improve things quite a lot, and if you're around a charger for most of your day, then all the power to you, quite literally. But just using the phone normally, the usage time on here unfortunately leaves a lot to be desired. Definitely not a battery life you'd want to rely on too heavily. And so with everything considered, the Google Pixel 4 really does still have a lot to offer in 2023. The display is gorgeous, the cameras blew my expectations out of the water, and the performance is still pretty top end. Plus, if you buy the phone now, there's a good chance it'll remain perfectly usable for years down the line. So honestly, if you can look past the mediocre battery life, this is a darn good deal for under $150 on the used market. I've seen some really good listings all over eBay and Amazon, and to be honest, I would personally rather have a used Pixel 4 than a new budget Android phone for the same price. It all in all really outdoes itself in a lot of aspects in 2023. No, maybe not the battery life, but that's not a problem for those who are always around a charger. If you're after a dependable phone that does everything you need it to feature-wise and does it well, you may have to look no further. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please make sure you drop me a like and subscribe to TechSpree for more reviews, insights, and the occasional unboxing. Also, if you'd like to have a stalk, my Instagram is at tech_spree and my Twitter is at techspree1. Thank you so much for watching. This is Tom with TechSpree, and I'll see you as always next time.